This is episode 41 of the Ownstream podcast, featuring Luigi Gino Di Serio.
Welcome to the Ownstream podcast. I'm Teresa Scoba.
I'm Stephen Shelley.
And we just hung up with Luigi Gino Di Serio. What an amazing man. And, we just started a very brief master fast, a protocol, a system that Gino has developed after many, many years of his own experimentation with different diets, fasting, detoxification. He has tried and done it all, really. It's very clear speaking with him. And we don't speak explicitly, which we do in many podcasts about your calling and what's your calling. And it's very clear speaking with Gino, emerging from his story and his own years and his own, how he was directed and led and called in various ways to explore the human body's, spirit's relationship with food and energy, and how he has beautifully, through his own experience, come to the answers of how the body gets disease through obstruction and how to clear that and maximize the energy in the body through fasting. It's tremendous. And, so we were drawn to the Master Fast through the Bentinho Massaro community. We're about to begin, as we record this, a 2-week, 12-day, I should say, meditation retreat. And many of the students of the retreat are also going to be following the Master Fast during this time. So we just started today. And it's a brief fast compared with what Gino shares about in terms of what's optimal to really clear the obstruction in the body. But it's something we're trying, and who knows how long we'll go, really. We know we're going for the next 2 weeks. And we begin here our journey with fasting, which is new for us.
Very new for me, and I think many people who are doing this at this time. And the reason that it was so attractive to us right now is because we knew other people would be doing it, so there would be support, be a lot of kind of collective consciousness about it. And I've always felt that was a help when trying something new, and particularly something as far out of the box as this is for me specifically. I grew up in the southern United States eating that diet, a lot of fried foods, a lot of animal products, a lot of dairy products. And as you probably know, if you're a listener of the podcast, like animal products and dairy products are very much in the rearview mirror for me, being pretty much a whole food plant-based eater. But what Gino is doing and what he's bringing is way different. It's and by the way, Gino and Bentinho are not affiliated with each other in any way. This just was a kind of a collective agreement that many people as part of this retreat wanted to do, because we're all interested in Gino's work in the Master Fast system. So just to be clear about that, there's no kind of connection there. It's not like we're required to do this. There's nothing like that.
And Gino's not working with us. He's not involved in us doing the fast as part of the retreat. It's just something we were all interested in.
And this fast is a very brief fast compared to what Gino recommends. I mean, I think for him, a 40-day fast is or 40-day master fast cleanse is kind of the beginning module, if you will. And he really recommends 108 days. And we get into why 108 during this conversation, which is absolutely fascinating. But the master fast system itself, it's fasting. It's grape juice with a little lemon juice. There's a pudding that you eat in the morning, which it's just composed of various things, including charcoal, which I think helps absorb toxins and things and pull it out of the body. There's daily enemas. There's a specific tea and herbal treatment to help the organs kind of go through this process and reboot, if you will. These are my words, by the way, not Gino's. And there's various components to it. So when we say when we're talking about fasting, it's very detailed. There is a dry fast period during the Master Fast. There's a daily dry fast of around 12 hours, which for us has begun.
And that's the minimum. Since we've never done this before, we're doing the dry fast of 12. I think you can go up to 18 hours a day, or maybe even more. Gino may go up to more. But we're dry fasting. By dry fasting, that means no water, no liquids. The strictest form of that would be not touching any water during that period.
Not washing your hands or showering or anything. And we've been doing that for a few weeks now, 12 hours a day. But now we've eliminated any and all food products. For the last 3 days, we had kind of stepped down our eating from kind of eating whole foods, plant-based, to just eating fruit. I got stopped drinking coffee about 4 days ago, which has been a big change. Oh man, has it been there's been some serious physical withdrawal symptoms, but I feel much, much better now, and I'm really glad I did it in time for the retreat, which begins tomorrow. So anyway, there's the Master Fast system, which Gino has developed and that he's going to talk a lot about. And you can feel the passion in his voice, the conviction, the excitement that's there at helping other people heal themselves and discover this new way of life. And it is a lifestyle. But there's really, what also comes through, what shines through in this, is a couple of other things. One is a philosophy about food and hydration and water that is maybe something you've never heard before. I have never heard of this before from anybody else. And it is certainly groundbreaking. It's extremely forward-thinking. If there's a cutting edge where spirituality, food, and the human body all kind of intersect, Gino is probably sitting right there on that edge.
Yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here is challenging the fundamental paradigm that you need to eat food, that the body...
and drink water.
And drink water, that the human body needs to eat food. I mean, we've talked, if you've been listening to this podcast, a lot about plant-based eating, and that's what we do. But we are not, talking to Gino, there's wildly more steps to take to clean obstructions in our body. And we do get into the optimal diet if you are going to eat, and the, fruit as the optimal food, and other plants in some moderation, I think Gino would say. But, this is really about looking at, questioning all of our beliefs about what the body needs, what we need to live. And as Gino says on this interview and on his MasterFast page, food is such a small part of where we actually get all the energy that we use to survive. And that's not what most of us tend to believe.
Totally not. And enemas is another facet to the Master Fast system. We'll be starting that tomorrow. I've never done an enema.
I have for a medical reason once, but
here for just a moment.
But we watched a fascinating video on enemas, on how to do an enema last night, and she made this very clear point that we take this, we sanitize our mouths every night and every morning through brushing our teeth and sometimes flossing, etc. And yet we never think about cleansing the end of our digestive tract. And what we don't know, and Gino mentions this in this interview, is that we have all these diseases out there cloaked in all of these names, cancer, heart disease, every small things, constipation, IBS, headaches, you name it, right? And it's all related to obstruction in the body. We call it all these different names. It's very confusing. There's a system out there that's leading us into disease and obstruction, really. And really what it boils down to is just obstruction in the body that needs to come out. So enemas are a huge part of that.
It's like the easiest, clearest, simplest form of obstruction removal. And I've never done it. So it's going to be an interesting couple
More
of weeks.
More to come on that.
And in full disclosure, this is a 12-day, probably a 13-day fast for us, maybe a little longer. And then what we've already kind of talked about is we may do the full 40 or 108 down the road
next year.
After we experience this. After the new year, I imagine so. But the other thing that really shines through here is a man who's actively seeking and trying and following his excitement. Like if you want to see the picture of a person who has followed their excitement through their life and experimented and tried out all manner of things and then created something like the Master Fast system, which is this powerful gift that he's giving to people for free. He charges nothing to access his page. All the information is right there. He could easily put that in an ebook and sell it for $50 or something. He doesn't do that. He gives it away for free. It is a labor of love for him. And it's a great portrait of a person following their excitement, uncovering a wonderful discovery, maybe the theme that he's here to express, and then giving that away, serving others with it. And it's when you think about it, it's truly the Ownstream story from that vantage point. So enjoy. Gino's a very verbose Italian man. He gets really into things. He's a lot of fun to listen to. We really hope you enjoy this. We'll be back afterwards to wrap up. But until then, sit back and relax and enjoy Luigi Gino Di Serio. Well, I think to get started, it'd be interesting. You were alluding to this a moment ago about, and you're you're spending some time now in the home where you were raised, or at least with your mother, and talking about the food and the atmosphere that's around you now, and probably smelling whatever that might be. And I can just imagine it, having visited Teresa and her family home many times. But maybe kind of share a little bit about kind of those conditions where you grew up and what that was like, and the food that you ate then, and then there's a quick follow-up on that too, about kind of, was there any signs early on of you kind of being extra interested in health and the body, and kind of questioning the system, if you will, early on? But first, maybe just some sense of like the atmosphere you grew up in, which sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, typical, Italian family. My parents lived across the street from each other in a small town in, mid-southern Italy. And their parents' family decided to move to Canada. And shortly after, my father followed her and came here. And then they got married over here. And we grew up not far from where I am now, in the North York, Toronto region of outskirts of downtown Toronto. We had, my mother's an amazing cook, and all her sisters and my aunts and they're all amazing cooks. Doesn't matter where you go, you're going to have food, and more than ever. And, growing up, in the, not rich and not poor, a little bit of middle class, I guess you could say, but they grew up in an environment where after the war, and there was not much, and they used to tell us, oh, we were lucky if we had meat once a week. And I go, no, you were really lucky, because you only had meat once a week. but and then once you come here, it's everything abundance. But growing up, our parents had that same mentality that, we used to sit down for, dinner or lunch or whatever, and we couldn't leave the table until everything was finished. Yeah. And that was the programming, they have to finish everything. So my state, I would just eat everything. And then anybody had leftovers, okay, I'll eat it. I remember my mother, when she was pregnant with me, she said she was very, very constipated. She had to go to the hospital. So I grew up in this cesspool, started my life in that. and then she says that when she used to get the little jars of the baby food. Yeah. For me, she goes, that wasn't enough. She had to end up buying the big ones, because she would just keep shoveling it in, and I would just eat it. So that's what I started off my life with. Like the amazing cooks, she used to cook all the wonderful stuff, We ate everything. We had always fruit, we had vegetables, and we had our meats. We had everything. Yeah. Typical Italian style diet. They eat a range of everything. Yeah. And everything in Italy, everything is really fresh. I was spent there not the year before last, 2016. I spent 8 months there, and the food there is way more fresh than it is here. Even though in Toronto we have access to all kinds of foods from around the world. Like, we have everything. You go to shops, you find everything. Durian, I have it across the street here. Fresh durian, they fly in. It's not there all the time, but we have it available. There's an Asian store, and you can get anything at these places.
Wow, like durian.
Sometimes you get some really good ripe fruits, and then most of the time, I'm walking through these stores and absolutely have no attraction to anything that's there. It's like, I'm not in sync with this stuff. I don't know. It's just not there, right? So you just try and choose the best thing that's available, or you just fast.
And so as you're growing up, and you're in that world, and you're probably going to school, and you're kind of following the prescribed path that all of us are kind of pushed down or nudged down. Were there instances where you began to say, this doesn't feel right to me, or this doesn't look right, or like a rebelliousness, or
I lost track of that one, but yeah. So, growing up, I was always kind of a little bit different than other people, the way I looked at things, and I was very imaginative and creative, and, working with my hands, fixing things. I got early on in doing. My dad had a little machine shop in our garage growing up. He was a machinist. And so we had a lathe, a milling machine, a surface grinder, a welder. What else do we have in there? It was a few nice little shops so you can, do things. And we tinkering in there and building stuff, go-karts, this, that. And I started, repairing cars, my dad's cars and stuff. And then started getting into repairing some friends' cars and stuff. And so I was always handy with my hands. And, people used to be surprised at things that you can do because they were not surrounded by that stuff. Whereas, for me, it was no big deal. So I was always kind of an outside thinker and ideas and new things and so on. And that went on through my, teenage years and early 20s. And I was into working out with weights early on and stuff. I was always doing some kind of things in sports and school and stuff. So I was always pretty active, and it kept me going. But it was in my early-ish 20s, I think, when I started having these back pains, aches and pains. I didn't really know what it was. And then I was 26 years old when I got handed the book of Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet by one of my friend's cousin, and they ended up turning vegetarian. Vegetarian? Really, that's crazy. Back then, you couldn't find vegetarian pizza back then. It was like, what? So I read the book after talking to him a little bit, and as soon as I read that book, I just couldn't put it down. Like I was just read it really, really quickly, and my life changed after that. This makes too much sense. So I started implementing fasting right from then and there. And I was driving around in the neighborhood, not far from where I live, and I see a sign, House of Herbs. I go, let me check this place out. Well, it was probably there for years. I just noticed it then. So I go in, and I was talking to the herbalist. There was a very good friend of mine now. And, started discussing about Arnold Ehret and so on and so forth. And then he pulls out Bernard Jensen's book, and he's there. Yeah, well, unless you get this stuff out of you, showing all the photographs of all the plaque and stuff, nothing's going to really change. It's going to take you at least a 40-day fast. And I'm thinking, that stuff in me, there's no freaking
way.
No. So what did I do? I had to do a 40-day fast to find out, right?
And these were pictures of a plaque in a colon?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe you can explain a little bit, Gino.
I'll show you the book quickly. It's right here.
Perfect.
It's one of the few books that I've kept. I got rid of all my books a couple of years ago, gave them all away. I'm pretty done. I'm done with can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We'll definitely put that in the show notes for people listening.
That
Tissue cleansing through bowel movement.
It all fell apart. But, I'll just show you that this is what I got. This is he was showing me these photographs, right? If you can see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was showing me all that, and I'm going, you got to do a 40-day fast, get rid of it. So I go, what do you fast with? He goes, well, there's that grape juice I have over there. And back then we had this company from Ontario here called the Wiley Brothers. And they had the best Concord grape juice. It was sold in gallons for $9.99, $10. Oh, wow. For a gallon. But it was, pure juice. Pasteurized, okay. That's a clue. And so I got a few gallons and I was off. I had to do this fast. So within about a week, that's all I drank, nothing else. Within about a week, I was unloading all this stuff that plaque that's coming out. And I'm going, and the smell, guys, I can never forget the smell because it never happened like that again. That smell was so bad. I literally had to open the doors and the windows of the whole house to get the smell out. It took hours. It was just horrific. Coming from that diet of eating anything and everything and just excess of all, and drinking years and, smoking pot and hash and all that stuff. Yeah,
right.
I did that too. I missed it all out. And then this stuff starts coming out, and it didn't stop till the 40th day. It's just stuff coming out, purging.
Wow.
And so back then, no internet, no real support, no to ask any questions. Like the herbalist had, some information and stuff, but I ended up having chronic kidney pain not too long after I broke the fast. And it turned into sciatica, and then my bladder started burning. I ended up being bedridden for 2 years. We didn't know what was going on back then, really.
Yeah.
Now we have an understanding. I burnt out my kidneys because I put the body in this purge state, and the body couldn't dump. This is why we say all parts of Master Fast system are crucial and essential for safety and effectiveness. Right. I had to learn the hard way, and it was all a blessing to come to this point, to have a better understanding. But, people today, with the support system we have, you don't know how lucky you guys are. It's just amazing to have, go on, type your question, or, call if there's an emergency, whatever, what's going on. Right. And you get your, pretty much, we don't have all the answers, but man, oh boy, we've helped so many people and are helping so many people, and it's just amazing to see the transformations. But so all that happened in those 2 years. I'm trying to get answers of what's going on, and doctors cut you, drug you, and it's something within me said no frickin' way.
Yeah.
No frickin' way. After that Arnold Herod stuff, just no way. So I continue. What I ended up doing is I continued having my seasonal changes fasts, which I just put together, and they would be anywhere from 7 to 2 weeks. And they would be on either juices or a little bit of water and stuff like that. So it would be fasts, wheatgrass. I've done so many different fasts, and green juices, and so on and so forth. And this would be my staple to reset me in all these years and look forward to these times of fasting every time the season would come, the season change. So winter, summer, fall.
And maybe for those listening, Gino, who don't know about mucus and, foods causing mucus, maybe you can summarize really quickly what you learned in those books you read in terms of what did you find that then made you go, I have to fast right now? What did you learn about what you were eating, and what is mucoid plaque?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, number one, we have this physiology that has a certain design. And if we're looking in this matter state, the physical only, and we compare ourselves to the creatures of the planet, we are closest to the primates physiology. Sure. Everything in the digestive system is pretty much identical. And they are mainly fruit eaters. Depending where you go, but the majority of them are fruit eaters, and that's what they eat. Some green leaves and so on and so forth. So we find that when man starts eating outside of that, physically, they start building more and more obstructions through the body in many forms, and these obstructions could cause mucus buildup. And inflammation, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just some foods are really, really mucousy compared to others. Like if we go into the dairy, they're probably the absolute worst for building mucus and plugging you up. Yeah. And I was a huge milk drinker growing up. I would drink like a quart, a liter a day. Yeah. My parents were freaking out because I would be guzzling the milk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. The least obstructive food I found for eating physically for man is fruit. Mm-hmm. And karmically, it's the least karmic if you allow the seed to carry on. So if you eat the seed and destroy it by chewing it, then that seed can't carry on. If you grind the seeds in a blender, then those seeds can't carry on. But if you eat like a peach, for example, and you toss the seed and it's able to grow, then it's carrying on. But for example, like a fig, which has many, many, many tiny seeds, when you're eating that fig, most of the seeds are going to pass through you and they will be carried on. That's the way they're designed. So that on the fruits and so on. Whereas when you're dealing with greens, for example, the herb category of foods, you eat like a dandelion before the seed, formed. You're not allowing that plant to carry on. And this is why we say that when you're using herbs, use them when you need to use them. Don't use them all the time as foods, because karmically, it's not great. So fruits is the least obstructive. Then we go into the green categories, and the herbs are much less obstructive. And then we move away from that, and we get into like the grains, very, very inflammatory, very obstructive, very dehydrating. And we get into the proteins and the fats, and these things they just plug you up. People will feel great because they're actually stimulants, and they stimulate you, but at the same time they're plugging you up. And that's another crazy experiment that I've done later on, getting into the fats. But yeah, so myself, I truly believe that physical food is one of the first forms of enslavement, if not the first form of enslavement for humanity in this plane. We're not designed to eat physical foods. That's my belief system. Our body is looking for energy exchange, not food. I always ask this question. If food gave you energy, where does the energy come from to digest the food?
Right.
So we're not eating 24 hours a day, but we're alive, we're moving, we're thinking. There's a lot of energy being produced here. If you can store the energy that a body makes in 24 hours, you could probably power a house for a while. There's a lot of energy that the body is making, and it's continual. Right? We're breathing all the time. There's energy being used and interchanged. So, this is a whole different paradigm of thinking. People think you're crazy and all that. Why is there people starving? It's just the understanding. Starvation is a state of being. It has nothing to do with food. Nothing to do with food. We are programmed, and there's tons of studies that show how programming affects people. And if programming didn't work, then why are corporations spending millions of dollars a year after year after year, if it didn't work? And they continue to do it because if they stopped, the programming dissipates and goes away. So they continue spending it. For example, like McDonald's, what do they spend a year? Go punch it on Google. It's crazy, the amount. They wouldn't be spending that money if they didn't have to. They have to keep doing it to keep us in that programmed state. So it's the same thing with everything else we've been taught. We need to eat food, and you're going to be dead if you don't drink water in 3 days. People believe that. They actually believe it. I was one of them. Yeah. No water when I heard about this dry fasting stuff. That's insane. Same thing as arrogant. That was crazy. As time goes on, we see the level of consciousness expanding for everybody and get us out of this programmed state that we're all in. And it still affects us. Even though we know it, it's still affecting us. It's still there, that program. And it reaches out to you, especially when you go on these longer fasts. Oh, yeah, maybe it's time to break your fast, whatever. All these excuses start coming in that mind. So, yeah, that's I went through that 2 years before I was able to get myself out of that. And it was a long struggle to get my strength back and everything, continued the fasting, continued staying, clean eating, and basically a vegan diet. Then I went back into the working world and so on and so forth, and I ended up going to help a friend of mine. He opened up a body shop and did that for 4 years. That was really, really a backward step for me in health.
Yeah.
All everything you touch, chemicals, and I did that for 4 years. And then I said that I had enough. I could feel it. I went back into my regular trade and machine shop where an automation department of where they build machines to build automobiles. So I did that for another 4 years. And that was really, really hard on me because it was a lot of hours. I was no life, just working 12-hour shifts, sometimes up to 15, 7 days a week, pretty much. No breaks in those 4 years. And then it all caught up to me, and I was getting a lot of problems, heart palpitations. I was getting numbness in the side of my face. Things were going, and it was just another wake-up call to, make some more changes. And then January of 2000, I said, that's it. I'm going to go back to what Arnold Laird was teaching. Mm-hmm. And I think that's about the time. It was late 99, I believe, when we got the computer, I believe. Yeah. Uh-huh. So I started doing some research, and there was like 2-3 websites. And one of them had stuff about Arnold Laird, and there was nothing on the internet of raw foods. Nothing.
Amazing.
And so bang, I go, that's it. I'm going this. I'm doing this. I'm going raw. I'm not cooking anymore. My wife thought I was crazy, and she left me a few months after that. Nothing to do with that. It was just a lot of other things. That was just the last straw for her. Right. And I never looked back. I stayed raw and continued my season change fasts, which were a blessing all the time. No matter how clean I ate, because my main staple was mainly fruits, salads. And then in about 2004, I started growing all my own sprouts with ocean water. Mm-hmm. So no matter how clean I ate, I would come to the point saying, yep, I'm ready for the next fast. The body needs that break. And it just, it was just a relief. And then you can see the rejuvenation happen in those 7 to 14 days every time you do the fast. In those days, I did a lot of shows, especially after, 2005-ish, with the ocean water. We were selling it here in Canada for agriculture, and we would do a lot of health shows and farm shows and everything. If you go to farm shows, you'll see the most healthiest looking people gathered under one building you'll ever see. And I'm going, something's wrong with this picture. These are people feeding us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, there's a few awakened ones, but few. It's all about, yield. It's sad, but that's the way it is. So I started growing all my own sprouts and everything, and started doing a lot of wheatgrass. I got to doing anywhere from 8 to 16 ounces a day of wheatgrass for 2 years solid. A lot of wheatgrass. It did wheatgrass, yeah. It did me wonders. Like the stuff I grew, the sprouts and the grasses, mine would last easily 3 weeks in the fridge, grown with ocean water. We've tested all other people's sprouts and grasses on the market. You're lucky if they would last a week. Some of them a few days, they'd go bad. It's night and day difference. And, did me a lot of good. We had amazing results with people getting on just doing the wheatgrass juice and putting that part of their diet and so on and so forth. I had people coming up to me all the time asking me, what the hell are you doing, man? Your skin's just glowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that was doing all that. That's how I was living, right? The fruits, the sprouts, lots of grass, and then the fast. That's what kept me going. Mm-hmm. And then came around, I can't remember, when was it? 2008-ish or something, 2008. I think it was around there where this raw chocolate thing came in. And started implementing a little bit of that, and then getting into the 2009, I was having a lot of problems with this raw chocolate thing, and a few friends of mine were saying the same thing. Like, I don't think this thing's cut out to make us be, man. I started getting insomnia and heart palpitations, and then some information started coming out about the fruit. Fruit is the bad news.
Right.
Sugar is bad. Sugar.
Yeah, sugar.
All that. I bought into it. I bought it because of that state with this chocolate. I guess it just threw me off, and I bought into this thing, and I went hard into this raw vegan and high fat raw vegan. And when you're going to these fats, the diet was all vegan. It was. I was still doing all my sprouts, my grasses, but I was increasing the fats, like avocados, the oil,
olives, nuts.
Yeah, the seeds.
Yep.
And that was the staple, right? And back then I was also in the second year, I can't remember what it was, 2010, 11ish. I started sun gazing as well, but it was a very stimulating diet. I had gone back to working out with weights to see what I could do, and I got very strong. I'd be working out for strength, not for muscle or whatever. I'd be working out strictly for strength, and I got really strong. The diet is very stimulating, but what started happening after about a year and a half into the 2 years, slowly, these things were happening slowly, but I was ignoring things. I started getting mucus again, which took me over 5 years to get rid of the mucus I had.
Wow.
5 raw foods and fasting to get rid of that mucus. Because I was always, all the time, mucus, a lot of mucus. And it cleared all up. And so after, going from the into this high fat thing, in 1 year, half year, 2 years, I had all these signals that I was ignoring. Oh yeah, detox. I was completely bought into the science of this high fat, ketogenic, whatever you want to name it, diet.
Right.
And I started getting a lot of problems. Joints started hurting, and then my SI joint started popping out. And be going to chiropractor, and this started happening every month. My ribs would start popping out.
What's the SI joint?
I don't know the name of it. It's the hip joint. The short form is called SI.
Okay.
I can't remember the name.
But it's the hip. That's the main thing.
The main hip. And it would pop out, and that would put pressure on the nerve on the spine, and that's how you get the feeling of sciatic and all sorts of things. But what's causing these things is usually, plugged up thyroid, because that controls, and liver, which controls all your connective tissues and so on and so forth to hold everything in place. Right? So if they're weak, everything pops out very easily. And the organs and glands are not able to clean and do what they're supposed to do. So this started happening. Then I started going to chiropractor. Like every month this was happening. It was getting crazy and very painful. So it was into the second year or so, I had a friend of mine who, was right into it. He had the microscope, for looking at the blood and everything and so on and so forth. I'm getting all these signals that things are not really working out, and I'm questioning things. And he ended up dying, my friend. His heart stopped. He was into this too. And but just before he died, I was saying to him, I'm going, there's something wrong. This thing's not working. I'm going to go back to what I know. I'm going back to the fruits and basics, the herbs and so on and so forth. So I had basically switched just before he died. Maybe it was like 2 months before he died. And it was a big wake-up call. What really set me was to change my mind was I had a fungus infection from head to toe. It was horrible. And it took me like 5 weeks to get out of this. And that was a wake-up call that slapped me. My memory was gone. My hair all fell out. I destroyed my teeth, not on sugar, on high fat. All those joints problems. There were so many problems. Like, when you look at a number and you got to write it down, I couldn't remember the number. Just by looking at it, I had to look at it like a few times. That's how gone my memory was.
Wow.
Slowly, I've been going back on the fruits and herbs, and everything started coming back, and it was just a blessing in disguise. But the reason I know now why it did so much damage to me, because of the way I was living on this raw food diet of just mainly fruits and herb and fasting, and then coming into this really dense, heavy matter, high fat diet, it just plugged me up. Like I might as well have eaten McDonald's, honestly. It's just, it was that much of a shock to my system. So somebody coming from a North American diet who goes into a high-fat, raw vegan diet, they're going to feel better for a while. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they feel great, yeah. And some of us, with the stronger genes will be able to do it for an extra few years or whatever. But those old, strong genes are, phasing out. We're not seeing that. We're seeing children not outliving their parents. It's already happening. The weak genes are coming in. It's horrible. So, we need to really have an understanding of why this is happening. The genetics of people they're bringing in weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker offspring. And if that happened in nature, nature would be extinct very quickly. You know, it doesn't happen in nature because only the strong survive in nature. It only happens to domesticated animals because they have no choice. They're forced interbreeding and breeding and so on and so forth. Right. But this is the way nature keeps itself strong. You know, the weak have to go. It's the beauty and the scary thing, whatever you want to call it, but that's the way it works. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So, you know, going through that fungus infection was the big wake-up call, and I went back into the fruits and herbs and so on and so forth. And then a few years of doing that, it was getting better and better, and things started waking up again, and my hips and ear ribs started getting better, and and we you know, we keep going. And I was thinking of retiring in Venezuela because I was taking care of my dad. He had heart issues, and he was going downhill pretty quick. They put him on all kinds of meds, and then I finally convinced him to, you know, get on some fruit and some herbs.
Yeah.
And we did that. So I was taking care of him, and him and my mother would go every year to Venezuela because my mother's brother lives there. Uh-huh. He was living there for most of the winter.
And did that help your father, that dietary suggestion of the fruits?
Big time. I got him from so many meds down to just like 2 that he was on. He just didn't want to fast because he didn't believe he was full of crap. He was skinny. Right. He just didn't want to go that route. But I got him off of so many meds. He was starting to feel better.
That's kind of the thing in the U.S. It's like health equals weight. That's the basic. Yeah. If you're skinny, then you must be healthy. If you're not, then you're not healthy. And we posted on social media a few days ago about we were going to do this, and a number of people responded and said, "Why? You're so skinny."
Yeah, you know, don't lose any more weight. Like, what are you doing?
Weight.
You know, neither of us had ever fasted before, and we've been interested in this because we know we both grew up as children. You know, I grew up on a heavy Italian food too, and also a lot of fast food and ice cream. And he grew up in the South. You know, we have a lot of that in us. You know, we can feel it. I'm coughing right now with mucus in my lungs. You know, and so we know. But we had that same reaction from our family when we were talking about fasting.
By the way, everybody should know. This is our first day. This is day 1 of our master fast. And this morning we've had the tea, the kidney tea with the herbs, and we've had the plasma pudding. And now, Gino, you can probably see us drinking grape juice as we're talking to you.
Yeah.
That's what we're swilling. And in fact, one thing I wanted to add to what you were saying earlier, and this just happened like a couple of days ago. The president of the American Heart Association had a heart attack 48 hours ago.
Oh yeah, nice.
You know, so the irony there is so clear. But I guess like, so you're a student. You're clearly an experimenter. You're trying all of these interesting diets. And I'm tracking like decades as you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can remember that's the 70s. Oh, that's definitely the 80s. That's you know, and because I remember all these things too. But the master fast system is so precise, or it seems to me very precise. And so what I'd love for you to talk about how that emerged.
Yep.
In your story. Like, when did you get clear on all these different facets? You've got kind of body support in the form of herbs and tea. You've got grape juice and lemon, which I guess is just to help flush the system and provide some caloric intake. And then there's these enemas. It's really precise and really detailed. And where did that begin to form out of where you are now in your story?
Well, it started in 1990. That's why I mentioned the Concord grape juice.
Right.
But once I got into the raw foods, raw was law for me. Raw was law. It's if it ain't raw, forget it. I don't even want to know about it, right? That's where I was going. But how this whole thing came to be was in all these years, I was always helping people. You know, especially when I started doing the sprouts and the ocean water, I was always helping people, teaching people how to grow sprouts and doing shows and various things. So, you know, I was in the Toronto area here. And I was doing that for many years. I have a very good friend of mine who's a colon therapist. He's been doing it for like 30 years. And we would pump out, and help people with this wheatgrass. And we've seen a huge transformation on raw foods and wheatgrass. And I'd always be advocating fasting, but very few people took heed and listened to that. And people are not into stop eating. This is what I found, right? And, at the beginning you want to preach it everything to the world that you know, and nobody wants to listen. So I just got tired of that and just started, teaching to people who want to learn. But how this whole thing came to be was, I also went through the whole water phase, a lot of research in water, a lot. I went through drinking 3, 4, 5 quarts a day. I went through that stage. That's horrific for the kidneys. And the water drinkers are always thirsty, and you have all kinds of problems from that because you're dehydrating yourself. That's another whole ball game. But one day a friend of mine comes here, this was after I found out about dry fasting. It's about 4 years now I've started dry fasting. If you go in Arnold Ehret's book, he mentions the word of, if the less you drink on a fast, the more aggressive the fast. So that always stuck in my head. I didn't know what he meant. So I would, in all those years of fasting, I would, implement drinking as least as possible, or, many, many, many hours without knowing what dry fasting was. I've done that in the past. So when the information came up about dry fasting with Philnoff's book and so on and so forth, holy Jesus, that's what it's about. That's what he meant. And that's what he was doing. So a friend of mine one day walks in and he has a bottle of Welch's grape juice. And he's drinking, he's there. One of my friend's brothers got rid of his lung cancer with a 40-day fast with this stuff. I go, yeah, that's cooked. I've done that, 1990. And it was just, it was like this, right? I didn't see anything else. So in this meantime, I was studying as a student at the Kesh Spaceship Institute, if you're familiar with that, on plasma science.
We know it through you. Can you explain what it is, though, to the listeners?
Mirhan Kesh is an Iranian scientist, and he basically discovered how gravity works with magnetic field. You can't have one without the other. One's the taker and the other's the giver. The gravitational is the stronger of the two, and it's the taker, and the magnetical is the giver. And everything in the universe is plasma, and it has these two fields. Even the atom, the way they describe it, it's not what they say. It's actually a plasma with these two fields, and that's how it's moving continuously for perpetuity without eating, drinking, or anything. It has no waste. It's connected to the greater of what we are. So he ended up starting online classes, right, to teach this stuff. And it's in depth. It goes through everything from A to Z and everything we do on Earth and around the universe. So his purpose here is from the universal community to bring humanity into peace, balance, and correct conduct, to enter the universal community. And we will not be able to enter the universal community until humanity reaches that state. So that's what his purpose is here, to teach and bring us up to date on this science of creation, the basics of creation. And it was when people started looking into this stuff and watching videos, it's just like blank. You can't really understand, but it takes persistence and being around it, and things start coming to you in clarity. And I was the same at the beginning. I started listening to some of this stuff, and then all of a sudden I couldn't take it anymore, and I put it aside for a while, and then I got back into it, and then things started opening up and awakening in me, especially when you do the long dry fast, and and the information comes through. So that's what he's doing, and he teaches continuously. It's an online course you can take. He does one free teaching a week to the public, and then there's the private side. And I ended up going to Italy to be at the school for 8 months in person. That's why I went to Italy, to be part of the Spaceship Institute, and some amazing things that happened over there. But so this grape juice thing, in plasma science, we have a new understanding of when you heat things up, you open up their structure atomically to release their energy. Because this is how we get into GANs making and so on and so forth. They use their energies. We don't use the physicality of them. We use their energies. This is one type of GANs. You can see here CH3, if you can see that. The stuff on the orangey stuff on the bottom is your CH3 GANs. And that water is energized. And I can use this water, whatever way. You don't have to take it internally. Just put it on your body. And you're using the energy interchange with it. The gravitational magnetic fields are going to be interchanging with you. And you can keep filling this up for eternity because it never loses its energy. Just like ourselves. But we've been duped. We have to eat. Mm-hmm. And we are made of these materials. We are made of these GANs materials. And those energies are infinitely interchanging with all the other energies on the planet, other planets, the Earth, the Sun, the stars, the Moon, the plants, other people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we are continuously interchanging with all these planets. 1 second again. Guys, I'm on a live call. I in through one ear and I didn't hear it from before.
But that's a good feeling of an Italian household.
It is.
That's good.
Yeah.
Teresa immediately had like a physical reaction when you said that.
I just laughed hearing your family. Actually,
that's great.
So we're made out of these materials. The reason the way they're teaching these materials is because when you interact with these materials, the awakening starts happening. So another day, maybe a few weeks later, my friend comes again with this Welch's grape juice. And he says the same thing, but this time what happened? The light went on.
Yeah.
Holy shit. The memory of my original 40-day Concord juice fast came very clear on the power of how it cleaned me out. And then the mind started going, okay, bang, bang, bang. How do we implement this all together with what we're doing? And this is how Massive Fast was born. Having the dry schedule, activating the grape juice to be even more stronger by creating a gradient with a lemon, using the psyllium pudding with the charcoal, which is another strong gravitational magnetic field strength of plasma. Farmers do it all the time. They burn their fields to re-energize the land, not fertilize, energize. Mm-hmm. Brings the energy balance back. We have the clay in there, and all these three ingredients, the psyllium, clay, and charcoal, they're going through our GI tract. Physically, they're absorbing and massaging, going through, but plasmatically, they're doing their work to bring balance as well. Just like when you go to the hospital with a drug poisoning or food poisoning, what do? They give you activated charcoal.
Yeah.
But, they're looking at it at the physical state. It's not working the way they think it is. It's actually working on the plasmatic level. And that's why it works. And it's why it's so powerful. Just to have charcoal around you, just get hardwood charcoal and keep it around you, especially where there's a Wi-Fi and stuff. This absorbs everything, right? Brings balance. So all these microwave fields and everything. And the nanomaterials, do I have any here? Like you can nano coat copper and stuff, and these will bring balance so they don't affect you. So when that light came on, about this juice, so I basically started figuring out a way to implement it all to make it safe and effective for people. And so we had that. And then the tinctures, to not want to activate the digestion, got to get rid of the herbs and just use the tinctures, because we're just using the energy of the herbs, right? It's just an alcohol. We're just using the energy. So then I'm thinking, well, we can create a small gradient with that way if we put it with a tea. So what more tea better than using a kidney tea, because the kidneys, they're doing tremendous work during a fast, and they need a lot of support, as well as all the other organs. But the kidneys, they're like energy centers for our brain and our physicality. They're just doing so much work, and only the size of our ears. And they're a fabulous and miraculous organ that are able to filter and then dump the waste. You know, they're a two-way filter. They get self-cleaning. But once they start getting backed up, you start getting any aches and pains, you can always go back to the kidneys first in physicality and emotionally. They have their own free will, which you need to take charge of them and nurture them and love them to allow them to function and open up and do what they're supposed to be doing. And dry fasting, kidneys love dry fasting. They don't like processing fluids. They like processing fields. And this takes time to gain this understanding. But once you start reducing and get rid of your water intake, shouldn't drink water at all. You don't need to. Your kidneys will start doing a much better job. So that's basically how it all structured, put together. And then it was early January of 2015 is when I put my first video. It was about dry fasting. I don't even know if it's still there. And started sharing some information because, like I was saying, I was ready to retire in Venezuela, but the universe said, no, you're not going to retire. Venezuela all went to hell with the new president there and so on and so forth. Actually, we had a house invasion when we were there with my dad. 5 guys came in. I was at a store and robbed us all of everything we had. Wow. In my uncle's home. Yeah. So we can only elevate their souls of all these people down there because it's crazy what's going on. Yeah. But so that didn't happen. And they ended up going to Italy instead and blah, blah, blah and all this. So the dry fasting started happening of 2015. Early 2015 or late 2014, I think, was my first 3-day dry fast, and all the structure of that, started in the early 2015, and then I started sharing some information, and then had one guy, message me and says, I want you to guide me. Okay, whatever, sure. And I put him on the master fast, which had no name back then, and he did 30 days. And he was blown away. Raw foods, organic, and he goes, 30 days he had crap. And then after he broke it after, he still had for another 2 weeks black crap coming up. Wow. And he didn't use the pudding back then. And, people say, oh, it's a pudding. Yeah, okay. Anyway, and then he wrote a beautiful testimonial. And then things started happening, right? And in the summer of 2015, I think it was, we put the Facebook page, and then not long after did the first version of the website. And then I was getting bashed left, right, and center about about cooked juice. Like, it was nonstop. Nonstop.
Right.
And I know how they felt because I was an anal raw foodist, right?
Right.
But once we...
But you're looking at it energetically, which is the difference.
You remove the blinders and allow yourself to come to new understandings, everything opens up, and it's unlimited after.
And can you tell us, Gino, what kind of experiences you've seen people have on the Master Fast, and what kind of experiences you've had? I know the full fast is 108 days, right? That's the period you recommend, and you recommend it as a lifestyle over a number of years. What kind of experiences have you seen people have?
Complete metamorphosis over and over and over. We have people on their 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th Master Fast, and we have the main Master Fast, which you go all out. But we have everything in between to what we call the hybrid. That's I designed it for children for various reasons. We do exactly the same thing, but there's one meal of fruit allowed, and if they want to eat more, they can have a salad or raw soup or something. So I designed it for children and actually for the elder, for people who just don't have the concept that they can fast. At least this gives you so many hours a day of fasting because you're only having the one meal, and you have so many hours of dry, and you have so many hours of the wet before you have your meal. And we're seeing great results on that. We even revolved a pet protocol around that. We're getting awesome results with animals, and they don't have, there's no placebo effect, nothing there, no ego involved. It works. It works quick on animals because they have short lifespan. So yeah, we have various versions that we had structured, and it was always there, but it needed to be written down so people have an understanding. So we have what's called, one of them is the weekly, where you do the master fast all week long, and then one day a week you have your eating day, and then you're back on, full on. So then we have other versions where you can do 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week off, or 1 month on, 1 month off. And then we have like a cascade where you go 1 day and then 2 days off, and then 2 days on and 2 days out, and then 3 days, and it's cascade. There's so many versions of something that you can implement in your lifestyle and make it work for you. So, but 108 days. I did mine 108. My first one was in the early 2015. Just after I put this together, I put it to the test, right? I already the first client that actually did it, he did it just before I did, and then I after he started giving me the information of what was going on with him, I go, this works. I have no doubt, and I know it works. So I jumped in. A friend of mine jumped in a few days after me, and then there we go. And I started sharing more and more videos and so on and so forth. But and that's how it started. That's the nutshell, quick version of all these years, condensed into, so we could give people an idea of. It was many, many, many years of trial and errors, and almost killing myself a few times, literally, to have an understanding of what's going on. And we have a little understanding now. The more we know nothing, it seems. So. We like we say on the Master Fast Club, we love people to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the beautiful, so we can learn from each other. If you listen to me talk when I started all this on the internet, and now I speak differently. People weren't ready for what I'm saying now. Back then, they were not ready. I was getting bashed for cooked juice over and over and over and over. And now we have people, what we call the closet drinkers, that have bashed us and are drinking Concord grape juice cooked, pasteurized without telling anybody. Because they can't deny that they can't deny the results no more. The results, we have. I can't mention names. Stuff. We had one woman that was born with a crooked legs and ribs that straightened out after 108 days. We have. People that, their eyesights have gotten better, aches and pains completely disappears that they've had for 20 years. Do we use the words cancers, bullcrap, these names that are disease, there's no such thing. Gone, the tumor's gone, energy's better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like there's all kinds of little miracles and big miracles we've seen. We've changed people's lives completely. Some people, if you look at their before and after, you can't even recognize them. The transformations are just profound. These we share in the private club for people who want to be members. It's open to everybody. This is our atmosphere is to share. That's the to share and to support. That's the key and the strength of Master Fast system, which I never had. And this is the beauty of the support system. And you don't have to go anywhere and spend thousands of dollars. You can do it right from your home. Master Fast, for most people around the world, it will cost less than what you spend eating.
Sure.
And then coming out of it, you're going to be saving even more because you can't go back to 7 days a week eating 2-3 meals a day. That's ludicrous. It's ludicrous to want to believe you're going to be going back to that. Because if you are, keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to put yourself back to where you were. There's no purpose. We are, what we call is the lifestyle of less is more, is what Master Fast is. To train your body, spirit, and mind to live on less. I like to say that if tomorrow everybody on this planet could cut their food consumption in half, That would be massive. Already half the killing is all stopped. Forget about trying to convert people to veganism. You're not going to do that. But can you cut down your food? Can you take 1 day a week off? Start instead of 3 meals a day, cut down to 2 meals or 1.5 meals. Stuff. This is how we're going to make changes, slowly but surely. And as people start feeling better, that's going to make a massive impact, massive. So this is what we're teaching. Less is more lifestyle. And we structure it so there's something in there that'll work for you. In all these structures we have within MasterFast, I like to push people. Go for 108 days because you need to have an understanding that everything's possible. Anything everybody's telling you that's no, this, that, you're too scared. Bullshit. You're only going to limit yourself. And if you want to fall into that trap, you have the right to do so. But everything is possible. Anybody can do 108 days. We've had a few doing it right from a sad diet. Go ahead.
Why 108? Why that number exactly?
Okay, well, that goes into other research that I've done with a friend of mine. He was living with me for a couple of years, and I had found him through a seminar or something I went to, and he had a CD, and it was titled "The Frequency of Light." And I picked this up, and I go, "What's this?" And that's where I went right there. We started explaining about 432, and I never heard anything about that, right? Because I'm not a musician or anything, but I have a lot of friends who are musicians. So that's how that started, the information of that started happening, of this 432. And now we have an understanding what 432 is. It's the number of creation. You add them up, it's a 9. 9 is divine. Everything mathematically revolves around that number in creation. And everything lies within that number. So if you pull out frequencies from that number, whatever we want to use, it's like an extraction of chemistry. It's going to cause dissonance and imbalance. Music today, the standard music around the world is A equals 440 hertz. Okay? 440 hertz, if you close your eyes and listen to the music, you will feel it in this part of your body, in the head area. If you run the same music and tuned into A equals 432, you'll feel it in the heart area. Okay? Same music. And, what it's doing, you're raising the frequency. As people say, we got to raise our frequency. No. We got to bring our frequency into balance. No, raise it. Because the higher you push the frequency, it'll make you feel like a stimulant. It's like pushing you out of your body. And it gives you these weird feelings, but you're actually in dissonance and in a stressed situation. It causes stress to all living organisms listening to music, anything outside of 432. In 432, it brings things to balance. Animals, autistic children, when they listen to this music, you'll see them calming down. It's just a beautiful thing. Like, if you ever experienced going to a loud rock concert?
Sure.
Next day you feel like you're hungover.
Oh yeah.
Frequency. It's not the volume of the music. It's the frequency. It puts you stress factor, right? I have friends. Like I have one friend who was, I used to go with him all the time. He used to be doing the Friday and Saturday night gigs, and the next day, like he's wiped out. Like hungover. And a few years ago, he switched to 432. As soon as he switched to 432. No more issues with the next day. I'll give you a quick. Another friend of ours in a band, we introduced him to 432, and he was going, "Oh, yeah, this is amazing," and everything. Then he contacts me several weeks later. He goes, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, "This is bar in Ajax. We always go play to. There's fights every single time." He goes, "We've played the first time in 432. There's no fights."
Amazing.
Yeah. So first time we went to see a band live in 432 was with them at this other place, and you can see the body language in people is more lovingly, and it's completely different. It puts everybody in that beautiful balanced state. So if you're going to listen to music, listen to 432. You don't have to worry about all this stuff. There's people pushing all kinds of things, but I say just do one simple test with Singer. Have them sing something, a certain phrase in a tone of 4/40, and then have them do the same thing in 4/32. They will see their stress of the vocal cords completely be gone in 4/32. My sister's an opera singer. I did it with her. She was blown away. And she presented it to the opera people, and they're not interested. And Giuseppe Verdi, it's called nicknamed the Verdi pitch. He was an Italian opera composer in Italy, and he was trying to push forward. I think it was in the 1800s, and so he would only play in 4/32, and they didn't want to hear it, even though this famous Italian composer was in 4/32. So she kind of stepped back from the opera world after that. Because holy jeez, this is what he was doing, and they don't even want to believe in that. This is how conditioned the planet is. The program. But yeah, we've tried on several singers. There's no comparison. The notes they're not brighter. It's a richer, more heartfelt feeling. The brightness is luciferic, pushing it up the scale, 4/40 or 4/4/4. Some people are pushing the higher scales. You're gonna blow your vocal cords. The opera singers are blowing out their vocal cords all the time in 4/40. They go higher. It's even worse. In 4/32, you're not going to have those problems. There's no stress. No stress. All the animals and so on, birds, and it's all in 4/32. It's a coincidence, I guess.
That's cool.
Whatever. Yeah.
And so 108 days is a quarter of that, it seems. Is that right?
Right. If you go music, you double or you have it for you to go up and down the scale. So 108 times 4 is 432. So it's also a 9. It's the number of creation. And if you look in the Vedic scriptures and so on, they talk about all these numbers all the time. The 108 beads they have in yoga, it's all in there. Mm-hmm. So they didn't use these numbers just by coincidence. Yeah. So I work around with a lot of Divine 9 in what we do in Master Fast, and everything always worked out way better when we tested things with Divine 9. Always. We worked on testing on like athletic ability with 4/32, and if you're infused with 4/32, you're going to outperform. You're going to have that slight edge over somebody else. Huh. We've seen 2 people that we charge them up with 4/32 completely stop stuttering in a second. They were stutters.
Wow.
2 people with a crossed eye. Her eyes straightened out right in front of me. I thought I was seeing things. And we've seen a lot of little miracles just around that Divine 9 number, 4/32. So yeah, there's lots going on with the reasoning for the numbers. It's amazing. 40 days is the minimum we recommend to do a master fast. 40 is also another magical number. It's a star formation in plasma science. Christ fasted for 40 days, and many other spiritual gurus, teachers, for the 40 day. I think Moses and many others. But I knew that 40 days is just the beginning, and 100 days is a start.
Right. Right. You say, Gino, to do it for 9 years at least, right? Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah. Say 9 years because there's a 9-year cycle through our physicality. The oldest bone in our body is the femur. It's completely changes over every 9 years, but everything in the universe has cycles, right? There's so yeah. If you commit to 9 years, you're pretty much going to stick with it because the transformations in 108 days are amazing. So you get this going through you for a few years, you won't recognize yourself when you look back. I've been through these cycles myself of 9 years on Raw. It's just completely transformative. I ended up destroying myself after, but it was all for a purpose, and it's okay. I've gained back, my memory and feel way better, and everything's come back. My bones don't pop out no more. The pains are gone. So magical things happen when you do my first 108 days. Now, this is an interesting. When was it? I came back from Italy, and my original yoga teacher, came to my house to see me, and we're talking, and all of a sudden he goes, He goes, you grew. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you're taller. I go, what? So I ended up measuring myself, and I had regained 3/4 inch of my lost height. I'm going, holy Jesus, with no drinking water, dry fasting. I went through my 108 days and did my 12-day in Italy, my first 12-day dry fast, and more fasting there. In Italy, I did 42 days master fast. 26 were dry.
Wow.
Right. I started with a 12-day dry, my first 12-day dry. So a lot of changes happened. And when you have the understanding of true hydration has nothing to do with water. This is what we've been taught. It's nothing to do with water. It's about hydrogen. And, allowing the body's fields to do their thing, to expand and flow. So I had, regained the lost height, because if you have 33 vertebrae, if you went a half a mil, that's like over half an inch.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not a far-fetched idea when you think about it.
Right.
You just open up. So that's what happened to me. And because that high fat thing, it destroyed me. It literally destroyed me. I shared my picture right on the day I decided I'm done with this high fat, and if you look at me, you can see the state. I wasn't in a good state, but we're learning as we go along. We have many miracles. Like, there's just so much. We have 3 testimonial pages, files in there. You guys can go through them. I don't know if you have already.
And that's the Facebook group? Is that what you mean? Yeah.
It's not for public.
And Gino, so you, when you're not fasting, what do you eat? Like, what would you say is the optimal diet for a human being? I know you've said we don't need to eat, we don't need to drink water. What is the optimal diet food-wise?
Just one thing quick. We do have a YouTube channel where we have interviews with the people that have done the master fast. Not all of them are 108. Some of them are less and whatever. And yesterday's call was magical. If you listen to that, the first couple that did 108 days together.
I saw those pictures. It's amazing. It's amazing transformation. And to scroll through and read the stories, read people's stories, and see all the images is amazing. We're both members of the Facebook community, and we'll definitely link all of that in the show notes. You have tremendous videos online. Both you have many, and then the testimonials are phenomenal.
Yeah. So typically for myself, when I eat, I have to have fruit. Okay. Let's say if I go a day with just greens, it just slows me right down. So when I eat, I make sure I have some fruit if I'm gonna have greens as well. So the greens would be either raw steak, a raw soup, or a salad, or some steamed greens or whatever. And sometimes I'll indulge in some stuff that my mother makes. I don't do animal products. I'm really done with animal products. I went through an experiment in Italy, eating meat first time in 25 years. I've talked about that. It was not a good experience. You take on the emotions of the animals, the anger, the rage, the sexual energy comes up and out of nowhere. What the hell's going on? It was a crazy experiment. After that, I did my 12-day dry fast. I said, I'm never doing this again. I don't need to take in the emotions of the animal. But fruit is the staple of what we should be eating. Water, you don't need to get hydration from water, and it does the reverse. It dehydrates you. I like to say is dry fasting is the trigger to hydration. Okay, what do I mean by that? If you think a sponge, squeeze it when you're dry, right? And then you bring in the hydration, and then you squeeze, and you bring in the hydration. That's what we're doing on Master Fast, and that's what we need to be doing even when we go back to food. We never, ever stop doing our dry fast, right? We continue that. We're using the word dry fast so people have an understanding, but I'm moving away even from that terminology. We're living on plasma, light, prana, whatever you want to call it. And then we eat occasionally when we want to. I just came off my 3-day weekly dry. Okay. I do it every week. And as time goes on, I'm looking to expand upon that, meaning doing more and more days of not eating or drinking anything. And then when you go for food, you go mainly on fruit And, you be careful, to get into anything away from fruit, especially after you've done a long fast. You really need to follow our breaking the fast rules, because people have gotten themselves in trouble. Nobody dies fasting, they die eating. And if you don't believe it, go to a funeral home and ask if the people were eating that died. And I can assure you, every single one of them ate. So everybody puts this fear, you're not going to eat, you're not eating, you're going to die, and all this crap. Animals do it instinctively in the wild. They get injured, they get sick, they stop eating. Only humans have lost touch with that ability. Like, to give you an example, like when you have a cold, you don't feel hungry. You're stuck, but what do? We eat anyway. So, we're forcing ourselves to eat. So yeah, I eat pretty simple. Like I'm not 100% raw. Like that's all gone. It's all gone. We even have the super hybrid, what we call, instead of doing the raw fruit for your one meal, you do cooked fruit. And cooked fruit is powerful for cleanser. And I found it's very satisfying emotionally, more so than the raw. Because we're so ingrained with this cooking and those emotions attached to it, it's very, very, very difficult for people to live on a kind of a fruitarian-only lifestyle. Very, very few will be able to do that in this society. Very few. If you move on an island, you got all fruit, it'd be much easier. But in this society, we're surrounded by food. No matter where you turn, you'll see food. Whatever event you go to, social gatherings, families, it's food, 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 food. Funerals, food. Everywhere you go, there's food. So how do you escape this? You raise your field strength. You set yourself. You have a system where you fall off a little bit, man. You reset yourself and you keep going. You just don't think about it. Because we have to make it realistic for people. But when you finish your 108 days or whatever, even 40 days, you need to really be strict on yourself, kind of stick to the rules, and for at least 2 times the length of the fast before you start implementing other things, which the less you implement them, the less you'll want them. The more you start going into these things, the more you're going to want them. They're very addictive, the cooked foods. Because they're in a high GAN state. But the problem when you move away from fruit, I found, is these cooked foods are more obstructive to the body than the raw foods. Right. Much more so. Like you have your fruit, it has obstructions, even in its raw form. It has some obstructions. Then you go into your greens, it has a little more obstructions. That's why you feel it slows you down. When you cook them, you have a little more. And then you get into the other stuff, it's more and more and more obstructive. So, the further away we stay away from those obstructive foods, and we continue implementing fasting to keep ourselves continuously in that detoxing state. This is what needs to be done in today's day and age. We need to be continuously in a detoxing state because we're continuously taking on things. Even the air has obstructions in today's world. Even the air. The things that don't are the soul, the sun, the other energies of the planets, the plants, energetically without consuming them. So we can tap in and interchange with all these other energies, walking barefoot on the earth, et cetera, et cetera. Many things you can do. Sun gazing, flower gazing. There's no difference. There's no difference. You can exchange energies. I don't like to say take your in, because we're not. We're interchanging. You're giving to them what they need, and they're giving to you what you need. It's an exchange. There's no thieving in the universe. It's a continual energy exchange. And that's the beauty of plasma science, which has expanded our awareness to just another level now. So as we do this and we live this, we will see, and we're seeing many people, I got to get back on Master Fast because they feel so much better. We have one guy's over a year and a half. He hasn't eaten. He's on Master Fast over a year and a half. He was in a wheelchair ready to die. Wow. 4 years of chemo. He's a superhero. He's still on it. So what's possible? It doesn't matter. Everything's possible. Depends what you set your goals to be. But don't let anybody limit yourself saying that fasting's dangerous and enemas are dangerous. And we're showing the complete opposite, where people are allowing themselves to completely metamorphosize. and it's just a beautiful thing to watch these things happen. The Martin who was he ended up getting an operation, was not this summer, last summer. Ended up going to the hospital for pain. It ended up being his lung was all burnt from chemo, and he was getting tremendous pain. They did so much chemo on this poor guy. The only reason he survived, he was drinking straight lemon juice. He couldn't eat anything through his chemo periods. And so they removed parts from his lungs. He dried fast after the surgery, 13 days in the hospital. No inflammation, healed, checks himself up because they were harassing the hell out of him. Because his urine was coming out all kinds of sediment and stuff. And the doctors are freaking out. But the amazing thing is, the lab backed him up and said, no, his kidneys are working amazing. They kept threatening him to sue, and he had to check himself out. So, it's just, where do you want to be? You want to limit yourself, or do you want to expand your imagination, your mind, to where everything's possible? Because that's where we're going. And we're going to see more and more amazing things as we move along, because as I've said, the way I'm talking and the knowledge we've gained from people doing it in the last 2.5 years or so is tremendous. And we've made changes throughout the Master Fast here and there, little changes. Some people won't notice them and stuff, but there's a lot of changes we made to make it stronger and safer for people. Because this is where it needs to go. We need to take charge of ourselves. Already, I don't know how many people, thousands of people have gone through doing some form of Master Fast, and the amount of money that's been saved for some people is just a lot. You can't even put a price on it because it's ridiculous. How can you put a price on your health? The transformations. There's many transformations. Just amazing.
Yeah, we'll link to a few things, but we'll certainly link to your YouTube channel and to the protocol and those testimonials. The protocol, by the way, is just where you've listed exactly all of the pieces to the puzzle for the Master Fast system, and it's
just been
very
revised.
Clear. Yeah. It's very clear, very clear, and very thorough. And
that's Rana's department. She did all that.
That's great.
I don't even know how to speak English, and my English is my first language. I was not into school. I dropped out grade 12. I didn't even get my diploma. I needed one more credit, which was English. I failed 1 year because I just didn't like the teacher, and I just never ended up going back, and I was done with school. It was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it was.
I even stopped reading books. I don't want to be influenced. I want information to come through clearly. I don't want other people's I'll still get information and stuff, but I want the information to come through myself. And the time that happens is when I do my long dry fats.
Wow. Well, I think we're basically out of time. We have all kinds of possible follow-up questions. Like just when you're talking, there's like a half a dozen that occurred to me, but I think we should probably wrap up.
Sure.
Well, I think so. What we usually do at the end is we ask kind of 3 quick questions as a kind of just a nice way to wrap up that we ask every guest on the Ownstream podcast, and so that creates some kind of consistency. And I'll ask the first question. And we may already know the answer to this because you've alluded to a few books, but what book or books up to 3 do you think or would you recommend that every person should read?
Yeah, Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet, for sure. And he also has the Rational Fasting. They go together. He's got a few others, but they're basically all the information's within those 2 books that you need. This is another good one, right? Bernard Jensen's Tissue Cleansing Through Bowel Management. It's an old one as well. If you want to learn plasma science, Miran Kesh has 4 books. I started reading them, and I still have a difficult time understanding stuff, but it is written in layman's terms, not as a nuclear physicist terms. So it's just that you need to be surround yourself with this terminology and stuff where it starts sinking in. Yeah. Maybe one day I'm going to pick them up and start reading them again, because there's a lot of information in there. He's only released three. There's a fourth one ready to go, and I believe there's a total of 9 eventually that'll be published that he has to finish. But there was one mentioned last night for meditation by the fellows. By Drang, what was the name now? I can't remember the title. It's in the video. Mm-hmm. They showed the book from last night's interview. But honestly, the best book is Fast and Go Within.
Mm. Yeah, cool.
Honestly, I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face of how a durian tastes. If you've never tasted a durian, you have no clue what a durian tastes like. Same thing with Masterfast. Until you've experienced it, you're not going to know what we're really talking about and the things that can happen and so on and so forth. So experience is the best teacher, and we do all of us have all the information from all knowledge of one creation within. We all come from there. We all have it. We've just been clouded to not be able to see for some reason.
Yeah. Well, our second question, and you can interpret this liberally, what is the best meal you've ever had and why?
Meal?
Yes,
meal.
You can interpret meal liberally here.
If you get a proper ripe durian, I've never had one off a tree, but it's like an ecstasy feeling. It's amazing fruit. It's got some pretty awesome properties within it. So durian is pretty much one of my favorite fruits, but that can also happen with an amazing mango or any fruit off of a tree. When you eat right from a tree, a ripe fruit, warmed by the sun, there's no experience like that. And then there's the beautiful meals prepared with love and all that. And wow, okay, yeah, whatever it could be a combination of whatever. Specifically, I don't know. I've done a lot of eating, so there's a lot of joy, I guess, in all those meals. But that really stands out. Really good durian and a fruit off of a tree. That's really nice.
It's beautiful.
That's great. Last question. What are you most excited about now?
Repeat that. You cut out. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. What are you most excited about now?
Most excited about. When I read people's stories that are going through Masterfast, that's what keeps me going, because I started doing this just to get the information out there to help people. And when the stories start coming in of people's lives transformed, that's what gives me the joy and the excitement. Watching that, that's why I do what I do. I'm on the computer many hours a day, just making sure everything's cool and everything. We have a lot of admins, but everybody's got lives. Everybody's doing things. They're all doing voluntary. This is basically what I'm doing every day, is monitoring what's going on the page and helping people that way. But the stories of people, that's the most exciting for me. And it inspires others, inspires myself, and keep the snowball going.
One thing I can certainly say is I've been a member of that Facebook group for, I don't know, a month, 2 months, not very long. But I think every thread that appears, you respond.
That's right.
It's not like it's not like you're inaccessible or far away. You're very engaged, very responsive, and very, very of service in that forum. And you can really feel that when you watch.
I try to. I don't get to everyone, and sometimes other admins or somebody answers. There's nothing for me to say, but I'm there as much as I can be. If something needs to be said, I'll put my 2 cents worth and try and support, because I'm not inaccessible, but I'm only me, and if people do a little bit of their homework and everything, it's not that huge of a challenge to support. It's the people that come in and don't do any reading or anything. It's just consumes people's time where it doesn't need to be. Like, there's Google. We don't need to use the pages of Google. Stuff like that. It happens, but hey, nobody is more important than yourself. But at the same time, we need to respect each other's time and keep things moving smoothly, because there's a lot of people with serious challenges.
Yeah.
Serious challenges.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Gino, you're doing a tremendous service, and it's so clear how your whole life, it just evolved right up to this point to be of service in this way. It's so beautiful talking to you about it. So let us know, I know we've talked a lot about it, where people can connect with you online and anything that you want folks to know about that's coming up for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, online is masterfastsystem.com. That's the website. And Masterfast System on Facebook, and Masterfast System on YouTube. Those are the avenues to have access to us. But the Facebook is the hub of the support system. It's a private setting, and that's the only place really that we exchange our support. I do some consultations for various reasons, but some people need that. But I emphasize people sharing within the club, so everybody learns. Everybody, and it works. It's working out beautiful. It's a great place to be. If you want to expand your horizon and take charge of your health, this is the place. If you want to eat, there's many pages you can go to. Sure. We're not about that. We do have a post Master Fast page for after coming off your fast, and have support there. We don't want to mix the two, because some people they don't like to see food and stuff when they're fasting, so we've separated it. And then we have that, but really we're about Master Fast lifestyle, which has the structure of fasting within, always.
Great. Well,
wonderful.
Thank you so much. This has been tremendous. What a wealth of knowledge, and you're the spokesperson, but you've developed this from so much experience that it really kind of comes through you in this passionate way. It's very clear, and it's obviously something you strongly believe in. And I think more and more people are gravitating to it as more and more people are waking up and questioning things, and all these paradigms are falling apart. And one of the main ones is eat 3 meals a day and be a member of the Clean Plate Club. You talked about the programming when you were a kid. That's what was programmed into me. You got to be a member of the Clean Plate Club. And maybe the cleanest plate is the one that has no food on it.
Exactly. We will see more and more people moving into the realm of not eating. It's already happening. It's growing. What they call breatharianism and stuff. It's even in the last couple of years has been growing a lot. Yeah. And our structure will take people to that. Already people are moving that way that have been through Master Fast. It's the way it is, because food it's not necessary. It's a belief system.
Amazing.
I think that's the perfect place to leave it. Thank you very much, Gino.
Thank you. This has been wonderful, Gino.
Great.
All right, guys.
Thanks so much. All right, that's it for this week's Ownstream podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this awesome interview with Luigi Gino Di Serio. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode for links to everything mentioned, including the MasterFast website, the Facebook group, and the YouTube channel, plus links to the books we discussed and more. All of that can be found at ownstream.co/Gino Di Serio. That's ownstream.co/GINODISERIO.
Also, please sign up for our weekly tip-off email at ownstream.co and just click the sign-up button in the upper right-hand corner. This is where we share each Monday 3 cool things we've learned in the last week in the areas of lifestyle, business, and spirit. This could be an amazing quote, individual, tip, or tool designed to bring you more freedom and power in your life. So definitely sign up for that again at ownstream.co and just click sign up.
Finally, please leave us a review on iTunes. We really need your help in expanding our reach, helping us to inspire more people and spread the amazing ideas discussed on this episode with Gino Di Serio and others too. If it feels right to you, simply go to iTunes, search for the Ownstream podcast, click ratings and reviews, then click that 5th star, we hope, and leave us a brief comment on how this episode has inspired you. Thank you so much for considering that. We are very grateful. Also, we're on Twitter at Ownstream and on Instagram, where we post regularly at own_stream. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Ownstream podcast. To learn more and connect with us, please visit ownstream.co or follow us on Twitter at Ownstream and Instagram at own_stream.